There.
Good. George and Ian and I decided that we should try and put something together to communicate with you. It's been a while. Anyway, we introduced you to the 8N, I think, back in the spring. And at that time we replaced seals that were leaking, and we still are having issues with the 3-point hitch that if the PTO is not running, it drops. Yeah. So we wondered about, Ian's been doing some research online and found out that if we take this plate off on the side, we can maybe see what's going on in there with the inner seals on this transmission. So I guess we're going to make a start at that, and you can see how we get along. Okay, so this is the plate that we're going to try and get off. See what we can establish inside here. How far down is the oil level in this thing? Is it going to pour out when we... Certainly there's nothing seized about these bolts on this machine anyway. On this particular spot anyway. There, Ian's got our pan underneath here so we don't make a huge mess. Maybe you can see in the background we've got the corn planter still sitting in here, taking up space. We just pulled a cylinder off it a few minutes ago to get that repaired, and it's been leaking, so it'd be nice to be able to put it away ready to pull out and go instead of have to do a whole lot to it come April, May, when we probably got a whole lot of other things we should be at. So here we have a little plate coming off here. It's got ratchet marks in it there. I guess that's for catching on
it's your parking
the
brake.
That was our parking brake we just took apart. Yeah. So if there's going to be oil pour out, this will probably be the bolt here that'll do it. And there it goes. Yeah. Apparently we got the seals are still working in the PTO, and it's probably lower than this is, so we can refresh our oil supply again. There goes the step as well. There we go. Our dipstick as it hangs down in there. Looks like we have part of a seal around here on this thing. It looks like it's been broke down here at the bottom, which is probably the poor spot for it to be broke. So we will put a light on that so we can see more.
Yeah, it's not. You can see everything.
So I guess our level is just at the bolt hole, so I could probably put the bolt back in to stop the leak. That'll at least slow down our oil flow out. Okay, you want to stop it?
Okay, now that it runs beautifully, now we can try and get this thing restarted again and see what's going on with the hydraulics.
Do you have the key? You turn the key off?
Up and down is on.
On?
Yeah. try and get the hydraulics turned on and see exactly where our oil is coming from in here. So right now you can see there's no leaks in there. Shut it off. There you go. So, no leaks.
Is it bright enough?
Stop the light. You stand on the hydraulics or on the 3-point hitch.
Oh yeah.
So if you stand on the 3-point hitch,
It's not going anywhere. Stays up beautifully.
well,
Oh, I didn't shut the PTO off. Would that make a difference?
shouldn't.
Hmm?
Shouldn't.
Nope.
So you can see oil dripping down onto that shaft there. So most likely what that means,
Oh, we are going now.
so on this tractor, if the oil's coming out of the relief valve, it's below the oil, so you should see oil moving there. But from the oil on that shaft there, you can see it dripping off there. So that means most likely our leak is in this top plate up here. Most likely the seals around the cylinder are gone. That's most likely our problem in this case.
So the piston will be on top of this, right? Yeah, there's our leak pouring out of the piston. Can we tip it this way, maybe? So we need to turn it upside down for viewing purposes. Oops, right there. Okay.
So, there we go. So now we got 4 bolts in there to pull that off. Or no, those are just stubs through there.
Oh, they're not here.
And that pulls the cylinder off. Okay. So here's what we actually got. The oil seems to be coming right to the end of this. And then, so the seals in here must be gone. So we got to get that off, pull it apart and see what the seals are like inside it, and then find more. what's jammed down in there. That could also be a problem there.
Oh, that's the, I saw that. So this is the feed.
That's our feed to the thing, so the whole end of this feed blew out. That's a very large portion of our issue.
So this right here then must be an oil channel into that port. And then that feeds right through there.
Yeah, which pushes it into the piston.
So technically all we need then is a paper gasket.
Well, what were those for? Should we replace the seal?
I guess we'll see what they're like, but that gasket would be pretty easy to get off the shelf. If you're not sure about parts, best not to go too deep. So it doesn't get, is it sliding?
No, not at all.
Okay. Now there would be the possibility, if you really don't mind getting dirty, if you to pressure it down, you put pressure back in that hole, it might blow it out, but you could also get totally covered in oil too. So and it blew right out. There you go. Huh. Surprise myself sometimes.
So this has already been...
Okay, so those rings look in pretty nice shape. They're not cracked by the looks of them. It looks like it's kind of sludgy in there though. Of course this is heavy oil too. This is 80W90 oil in the transmission of this thing.
It's already been redone, so we don't have to do anything with this. We just need that gasket then. So this has already been into at least once by somebody previously.
A challenge will be pressing that back in there without ring compressors, so we'll have to see how that goes. Here, wipe that edge first for you. In there. A little bit of junk on the bench. Very interesting material in this gasket. It doesn't really feel like paper.
So there we go. That's back in, if that was in the shot of the camera or not. Actually got all this off in here. You can actually see what's going on down in here. So there's your PTO handle right on the side here. So all it does is moves that shaft to the bottom, which up in the front there, which is hard to see, engages there. And down underneath the oil is all the rest of your controls, which I need to make sure don't drop the camera into, or I'm never going to hear the end of that. And then there's your main drive shaft that goes right to the center of it. And you can see right at the top edge there the gear that drives the rear end. So it's pretty simple in here really for what it is. Okay, now we got our seal here, so now we get this thing reassembled and get this thing back together. It's kind of interesting material here. It's not really a paper, but it's hard, so hopefully this will fix all our problems.
start forward. Yeah, I know.
So, guys, let's try this. Let's see if this thing will first off start. Oh. Guess the car doesn't make any more, alright. Well, I was going to say that fired right up, but it did start. And the 3-point hitch arms stay up. Well, look at that, guys. Looks like we fixed it. Now I just got to get the seat back on. And this thing might actually be able to cut grass once this year. This seat is fully adjustable too, guys. It has 3 different holes. All you need is, I believe, an 11/16 wrench to adjust it. Yep. You have bolt hole 1, 2, and 3, and you can set it any hole you like. And other than that, this thing, hopefully we can get the started a little bit better, but hopefully this thing will be good to go to actually cut grass next spring. And there you go. Nice and comfy. Well, we're all good to go here, guys. So
this thing's running good. And now the 3-point hitch arms have never stayed up that long as long as we've owned the tractor. So that's been 4 or 5 years I think now. So I'm glad to have this working. Okay guys, so I think we basically got this tractor all ready to go now. So just figured I'd let you guys know, like, we really didn't know how to do this when we started. We weren't sure exactly what was wrong with it, but that's what you do, right? 4-H is learned to do by doing, so sometimes you just gotta pull something apart and see how it works, and by the time you get it all put back together, which hopefully you do, you'll learn a lot if nothing else. So that's something you guys can always try and work on, is to always try and just, if you don't know something, you'll pull it apart and you'll figure it out by the time you're done. And there's always lots of videos on YouTube on how to do this. That's where I got the basic idea from on how to do this, and then I just pulled it apart and see how it works. There are some things that are nice to know ahead of time, like this pin here. On the side just drops into a socket on the bottom to engage and disengage the CPO, or to disengage the hydraulics. That switch then drops into a little thing on the bottom there to hold it, or a little socket, and basically this just engages it. But on certain tractors you need to pop that apart under the oil. On this model you don't have to, it just pulls right out. But if you're doing this on a 9N or a 2N, this goes into like a little T-piece, and you have to push them together and pull them out first, and if you don't, you'll be replacing that piece. So something to keep in mind, but with the 8N it's pretty simple to do this, so anybody can do it. If you've got one of these tractors and you've basically got an 11/16 wrench, you can pull this whole thing apart. So alright, have a good one.